this was massively common. And these people had better lives than most of the ones in London that smelt like a sewer. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like around, say, 1860 in London, because supposedly that's when it smelt better. Before that, when they had the sewers put in, the descriptions are something I don't think I mean, you go to the dump and that would be a nice summer day and they'd be all walking around going, this is a lovely day. It smells nice today.
Go for a picnic at the dump.
Exactly.
So there's so many more things I'd love to touch on, and some of them are technical, but I think that we should sort of head toward an ending now, because that partly gives me an excuse to do this again. I have enjoyed this, but let's just touch on one more subject, coding. Now, you and I kind of have a bit of similar history. I think maybe we've walked a similar path with the coding. And a few kind of odd things in common. When I was 6 years old, I lived only a few kilometres away from you. But I should clarify that, and put any rumours to bed, I only met Craig for the first time in 2017. Although there were probably a few times when I could have accidentally, or we might have, and not realised it, particularly in online circles. But, we both taught ourselves to code, I think, as kids, and it became part of a lifelong obsession with developing these skills that enable building. I've got a fascination with a few sort of other things outside of that. I really like plumbing for some reason, which is probably why I'm a natural fit for Enchain. And I like metalworking and woodworking, which because they have that sort of that commonality with coding. They're tools that enable you to build stuff, and to be able to create is fantastic. It's empowering, I suppose. So when did you first start playing around with code or with building skills like this?
I actually started way back. I mean, I got my first email, which wasn't really my email. It was a University of Melbourne computer, a VAX, a digital equipment machine, because my grandfather was involved with something, Cree, Robert Ells, who was, if anyone remembers the old domain system in Australia. It wasn't only Americans. A lot of stuff happened in Australia. My grandparents used to look after me because my mother was working, and I got sort of shoved on a computer, so I'd shut up. One of my things my grandfather did when he got sick of me, he just put me on the terminal. It wasn't really a computer, it was old DEC terminal, green screen, with a 375 modem that you'd watch the characters go across the screen.
You could read faster than that.
Yes, you could type faster and then watch it catch up. So that was back then, and I really got into coding for naughty reasons, which was, well, how do I get into other things I'm not supposed to get into, because no one's letting me out of this little tiny useless room that does nothing. All I can do is code games that I get sick of, because used to get basically games you'd get in magazines, and you'd type out and play and vary. And
I remember those. I typed a few of them, and they were quite painful when there was a typo right back at the beginning.
Then you'd modify them so your sisters died early and you got more playtime, and things like that. But yeah, so getting sick of being stuck in those areas, which and extending privileges and seeing what was on the network, which I know is naughty, but when you're sort of preteen and teen, it's...
Well, I've heard that it was a lot easier back in those days. I mean, etc password was a plain text file.
Plain text file. You could finger all the usernames. There was a finger bug. Still FTP bugs. Half the time, the root password was either password or root. All the VAX machines had a backdoor in them, which digital equipment put in to make it easier to actually manage, so that they didn't need to try and backdoor their way in the machines. They put a backdoor in. But yeah, no one really thought about that sort of thing as a problem at that stage. Until the school did, and I got in trouble at school once because of I didn't actually change my grades. I changed everyone else's.
And let's leave that conversation there. I was worried that this was going to turn into a pissing contest about who's used the most primitive CPU at some point, but I'm not going to go there because I suspect you win. But I will point out you have a few years on me, so you're at an unfair advantage.
Picking up my age again. Actually, ageism.
So we're gonna draw this to a close in a moment, but I've just got one last question for you. Actually, two last questions. The first one: it's been a long time since Bitcoin's inception, and I think the last couple of years have been probably the steepest learning curve for a bunch of people learning how Bitcoin actually is supposed to work, as opposed to ideas that took hold and, well, still try to shake off 10 years later. But out of those people that have actually been like studying the white paper properly and working with Bitcoin
and other comments I made and other things that were there,
and there's a large kind of body of work. What would you say is the key people that people, even people who are focused on the Bitcoin SV vision, the key thing that people are still missing?
I mean, there's two parts to it. I mean, people who are working with us is different to everyone else. I mean, if you're talking about everyone else, getting people to understand that the sole consensus mechanism in Bitcoin is creating blocks. Therefore, you're...
No, I want to talk about the BSV community. So I guess this is an opportunity for you to sort of mark out a particular topic that you think people should focus on. Like, is there anything particular?
I think getting people to understand that you can actually create a combination of on and off chain, and do far more. So go back and look at all the old stuff. Look at Mojo Nation, look at PPay, look at these things that existed 20 years ago. So look at some of these old things, but don't look at them from the anarchist, we're going to have all the information-free BS, but start thinking about how we could actually make those into a service that helps people. How do we make it not a socialist, we're going to get rid of economics, and how do we actually make it into a system that gets everything out to as many people as possible for as little money as possible and scales without having ownership by advertising and data sale. So, I mean, that would involve getting to think a combination of on and off chain, using hashes to link external data, building parallel systems, building like overlay peer networks that then can utilize the foundation of Bitcoin to build far more. So, and starting people to take it into that next commercial level. So, getting past the internet.com stage that we're still stuck in, really, and getting people to start that first sort of venture into Web 2.0 and Bitcoin. Web 2.0 didn't invent anything new at TCP/IP level. It built on top of that. It built external things. It linked databases. It linked other systems. And when people start realizing that, and they can do that on Bitcoin, that's when it's really going to change.
I look forward to seeing that. So I've got one last thing that I want to ask you about, Craig. Bitcoin's 11-year history has been a checkered one. and the list of things that have happened around Bitcoin that have probably pissed you off, and rightly so. It's endless. It's a massive list, and we know that Bitcoin has cost you dearly. But we're talking about Bitcoin's role in making the world a better place. I've certainly had a sense of the experience of Bitcoin over the last couple of years has been becoming far better. So rather than focus on all the crappy things that have happened over that time, I just wanted to ask you, what's one of the things that has made you happiest about what is happening around Bitcoin?
Getting things back on track. I mean, that has to be it. I mean, getting people like Scrypt and whatever else to won't be lost, using things to make it simple for people to create on top of Bitcoin. Having people start to use Bitcoin for the real way. Little things like even hand cash and other, PayMail and all these other little innovations that are actually quite big that people don't notice yet. They're only small in sort of how it expands, but they're quite game-changing long-term. And getting people to understand that all of that's important, not because we want to be able to have a drug money, a heroin money. It's done all the time. I mean, Bitcoin's not going to get you something that the government can't seize. As soon as the government wakes up and stops listening to idiots and realizes that there's only a few nodes that you actually have to do anything against, and they're invested enough that you can use law, that exchanges are easy to control, then as soon as that occurs, then all of this changes. And they're starting to wake up finally. It's taken a while. So what we need to do is get everything in place so that we have something more than illicit uses of money. We have real uses of money, real financial sort of applications, real uses of secure code.
So if I can paraphrase, the thing that makes you happiest about Bitcoin right now is that people are starting to get it.
Yeah.
Craig, it's been a pleasure, and I hope we get to do this again sometime. So thank you very much for your insights. And I think on the subject of the theme of this discussion, Bitcoin Scrypt, we're certainly starting to see things come to life and happen around that.